Horoscope 101. All right, so this was a really interesting week for me this week because while I have a really badass Wes Craven horror collection with 3 of the films that I will go ahead and admit to you that I have not seen any of them, that is Serpent in the Rainbow, Shocker, and People Under the Stairs. Now, I'm pretty sure that Serpent in the Rainbow and People Under the Stairs got done this week. If not, then I'm totally wrong, but that's fine because I've been so busy. I'm just now catching up on what everyone else has done this weekend, so I was going to watch Shocker for this week. But you know what kept kind of coming back into my head was, and I know that Scream has already been done, and it was done fantastically, but what, by Joker 5150, but what kept coming back into my head was, strangely enough, and I do own Scream, I have the Blu-ray, I got this at the Best Buy Upgrade and Save, I got it for like $5 or something like that, and I haven't watched all the special features yet, like the commentary and stuff like that, but I'm super excited. What kept coming back into my head was the interesting thoughts that I had when I watched Scream 4. And that's what I'm going to do, is Scream 4. Now, I will kind of touch on Scream and the whole franchise a little bit. I love Scream. I have always loved Scream. I know that a lot of the older guys and gals on here think that 90s horror is horrible and stuff like that. And I had an interesting thought yesterday. I have a lot of issues with a lot of brand new horror films. I do think in the last year, it's gotten a little better. There was another video that I did pretty recently where I think it was my Q&A video, and I said that I had not watched a horror film this year yet, which was, by the way, not true. I have actually watched a couple, but, it went over my head, and I was, not thinking clearly. I had like 300 questions to answer, and I totally forgot about the stuff that I had seen already. Gotta have my coffee going this morning. But the reason of that is because everyone judges films based on their childhood, what they grew up with, what they expect to see. And you can never really put yourself in the place of teenagers today when you're no longer a teenager. You're going to constantly defend your generation, that your generation was the best, that maybe the 80s were the best or the 90s are the best. And I mean, I have some friends that I have made on here that make comments about some TV shows on like Nickelodeon and stuff like that I have never heard of. I've never watched the iCarly or whatever. I never watched a lot of the new Nick. I never watched Disney stuff. I was in the late 80s, early 90s thing, and that's what I am biased toward. So I completely understand if people don't like, Scream, because it's just, you can't understand it in the same way as the people that this was actually made for. And the genius of Wes Craven was that he made a film for a new generation. And if you don't really like it, that's perfectly fine. And I will go ahead and say that I thought he was also a genius for what he did with Scream 4. Now, I have interesting opinions about Scream 2 and 3. I don't have an issue so much with Scream 2, the whole Sidney goes to college, because, I mean, my God, Buffy the Vampire Slayer did that. Buffy goes to college, and the series continued with that. You gotta have the character goes to college story. Scream 3 was what I had an issue with. I only saw it once and never watched it again. And it's not that I'm saying I really disliked it. I just don't feel like it had a place in her story. Basically, you could have Scream 2 where she goes to college, and Scream 4, which, by the way, I apologize I don't have that with me because I don't own it. Because that is a continuation. Like, Scream 3, for me, personally, was unneeded. It just wasn't part of the story for me. But when Scream 4 rolled around and I saw that, Sidney Prescott was going to come back, and this was going to be for yet again another new generation, that it was going to have her cousin that was younger, which I always found that interesting. I always saw her being more of like an aunt character, but I guess they wanted to make her cousins with Jill, which is kind of the main female character other than Sidney. So I was happy to see Sidney back. She's coming back into town. She has written a book about what happened to her. She has her publicist with her, and she's there. And to me, that was the natural progression of the Sidney Prescott character. Do I love the Jill character? No. If you haven't seen the film, I'll go ahead and tell you right now, spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. I'll give you a second to turn off the video because that's my thing, as I sometimes say spoiler alert and then I very quickly just go and say what happened. Turn it off if you haven't seen it. The biggest issue that I had with this film was that the Jill character was almost too sweet. And maybe that's what they were trying to do. Maybe they were trying to make it to where you would have no idea that it could possibly be Jill that was the killer in the end, the psycho killer. But I don't think that the actress, to be honest with you, is that great. And so by the end, when she's supposed to play a menacing killer, I did not buy it at all. But overall, the entire film of Scream 4, I liked the concept. I just didn't really like who they picked for the Jill, the psycho character. But they did get me, to be honest with you. I did believe that the two guy main characters, Charlie, and I can't remember the other name, were had something to do with it, of course, and Charlie actually did. But I just, as I said, I didn't buy the Jill character. But when we talk more about the fact that, Sidney Prescott character, that was a natural progression of her, I also believe that it was a natural progression of the Gale Weathers and Dewey characters. By this point, they have gotten married. It's Gale Weathers. She has hyphenated her name because she's gotten married, and the natural progression of her character was that she is married, but she is someone that was always into the adventure of journalism, and she probably was someone that in this film she could never have seen herself being married, no longer writing, no longer doing what she absolutely loved. And so by the fourth movie, you really feel Gale feeling like she needs something to get her career back. She needs something for her. And I really thought that was a great, as I said, I know I've said the word a lot, but it's a great progression of that character. And then Dewey being the sheriff, he's been around long enough that he should be doing that. So while the film was made for a new generation with younger main characters like Hayden Panettiere and stuff like that, you still got the three core members of what, would be the first film, which is Sidney, Gale, and Dewey. You got to see what had happened to them. Now, I could completely get rid of the third film, but I really loved the fourth movie, even though I wasn't truly convinced with the Jill character at the very end. Now, you could very easily say, well, if the killer's not convincing by the end, what was the point of the whole movie? My defense of that would be, like I said, you get to see where the main characters really ended up. And I really like that. Will there be a Scream 5? For the Sidney character, I don't know if it's necessary. But to me, let's just be honest. When you watch Nightmare on Elm Street, it is about Freddy. When you watch Friday the 13th and those films, even though the first movie wasn't really about Jason, it was about the mother, it's about Jason. It's about the killers. But the Scream franchise, what is this movie really about? It's about Sidney Prescott and what she deals with. I mean, even on this right here, you don't see Ghostface on the cover of this. It's not even on the back. That's a costume. And many, many people could play Ghostface. So the main thing, and I love how still the Drew Barrymore character is the most, prominent, because that's what they tried to do with the first Scream film, was kind of pull a little psycho trick and make you think that Drew Barrymore was going to be a huge part of the movie, and she gets killed very early on, just like they did with the Janet Leigh character in Psycho, except she lived a little bit longer than her, don't get me wrong. So like I said, I had 3 films that I could have picked off of here, but I didn't, because I kept thinking about Scream 4, how much I liked that film, because it did have the progression of the 3 main characters. And I hope that, everyone that kind of feels the way about, I hate the Scream franchise, I hate it. Well, I feel the same way about all the exorcism movies and stuff like that. So everyone's going to have stuff that they really like, and they're going to have stuff that they dislike. Like, I don't really enjoy the Paranormal Activity movies either. I watched like a little bit of the first one and just didn't care anymore. But at the same time, I love the Blair Witch Project. So it's all about what you watched at a very developing age. I was in high school when Blair Witch came out, so that was very influential for me, but now I hate the Paranormal Activity movies. So, it's like, it just depends on what you like. So this video actually went on a little longer than I thought it would, but it's kind of just a little vlog style of, how I feel about the Scream franchise, how I really did like the next one. Not really sure that Scream 5 is necessary for Sidney's story, but we'll see whatever Wes Craven wants to do. So bravo to Wes Craven for the series. It definitely revitalized a career that he basically made, in my opinion, of course, with Elm Street films, and has kind of now still does stuff like this. So enjoy, all the videos that are coming up this week. I believe James will be back, from his vacation at some point. I believe this next week is going to be John Carpenter, so it's really going to be like, gotta pick something super cool for that. I will see you next Sunday. Check out my other channel, Lunaria Claire. I think I've posted a video yesterday, so check it out. Shameless plug, and I will see you all next week.